Welcome to Top Shelf Men. I'm Reese. Today, we are going to discuss why everyone is a feminist in 2023, whether we like it or not. And that has to do with the way modern, gynocentric society keeps pushing more and more ridiculous rewriting of nature, history, and reality. Normal, red-pilled men will quickly see an article like this and laugh it off as ridiculous feminist propaganda. You might think this garbage is for the perpetual commie circle jerk of blue-haired feminists and soy boys, but I think that's mistaken. I think this is actually aimed at children raised by single mothers and or absent fathers. Now, being part of an academic study, this gives permission to some 300-pound blue-haired pig to rush with this article to its classroom to push this crap propaganda on its impressionable students. And without anyone to teach the kids that they are being fed propaganda, the next generation will grow up becoming more brainwashed with feminist beliefs. Talk to random people and you will realize that many of them believe in this feminist ideology without saying, "I'm a feminist," or giving themselves some sort of feminist activist title. Many blue-pilled adult sheep believe in garbage like the wage gap, multiple genders, the concept that, women were disparaged as little as 30 years ago. And look, these are perfectly nice, normal people, but they are indeed feminists without the title framed in mahogany. Now, I'm going to get into my theory as to why this is happening in our societies. But first, do me a favor, and if you're enjoying this content, leave a like and subscribe if you believe the message in these videos is important. Help this message show up in more people's recommended feeds, helping create more top shelf men. Now, I truly believe this is why the powers that be keep pushing for diversity, equity, and inclusion garbage quotas, because then you get unqualified, mentally ill, the bipolar, and the borderline personality disordered into authoritative roles in society. Reality and truth will then suffer death by 1,000 cuts as they warp our cultures into deeper blue-pilled gynocracies where feelings and emotions will replace reality and truth. For over a decade, we have been in a crisis of replicability in most sciences where females were pushed into positions of authority because we needed diversity. What that means is that published scientific research cannot be independently confirmed anymore, now that women are in charge. In other words, most discoveries being pushed out by science are now utter BS. This is why when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, we had consistent advances and improvements in technology. But in the last 10 years, our technological advancements have stagnated. Any man that understands women's nature also understands that they are masters of double standards, opinions that change with their menstrual cycles. Then why are we surprised that science is now producing such laughably stupid feminist propaganda garbage like this? Of course, reality has been replaced with bullshit platitudes such as "your truth, your experience," instead of simply the truth and reality. So let's take a look at this scientific piece. Debunking the myth of the male hunter. Prehistoric women were better at hunting than men, study claims. Women have long been seen as child rearers, while men were seen as hunters. Study claims prehistoric women practiced hunting and were better than men. Of course, females were better hunters than men. That's why all the Looney Tunes with long hair and a bow are destroying all the real women in every single form of athletic competition. But let's read on. If you envisaged a prehistoric hunter, a vision of a caveman might spring to mind. But a new study claims that these cavemen paled in comparison to their female counterparts. While women have long been seen as child rearers and gatherers and men as hunters, researchers from the University of Notre Dame have debunked this theory. Their study found that not only did prehistoric women engage in the practice of hunting, but their female anatomy had and biology would have made them intrinsically better suited for it, rather than viewing it as a way of erasing or rewriting history. There you go. Our studies are trying to correct the history that erased women from it, said Dr., of course, a woman, Kara Okobuk, lead author of the study. So here they're telling you, we aren't erasing history or rewriting history. Trust us, we're just correcting reality. And frankly, the rest of the article is so ridiculous that I'm not going to bore you with it. But in summary, it tells you that female hormones allow women to be better than men at everything, at every kind of physical activity that isn't powerlifting, according to this study. If any of the propaganda in this article were remotely true, then mediocre athletic transformers competing in all sorts of women's sports wouldn't be destroying the top-ranking females. But these articles aren't meant for you and me. They are meant to brainwash the school-age boys and girls who are impressionable and raised by single mothers and/or cucked beta fathers. It feeds into a culture that produces the next generation of Mr. Nice Guys who put their mothers on pedestals and teaches them that the feminine experience is the correct one. Here is an example of the type of blue-pilled feminist man without the title. Now, this is a clip from the December 5th episode of Timcast IRL with a guest Terry Schilling. This is a man who considers himself conservative, but is factually a blue-pilled beta who lives his life at the pleasure of the women in his family. Let's roll the clip and take a look.
Look, I don't think I had that unique of an experience, but my great-grandmother, so I'm the eldest of an eldest, so I knew my great-grandmother was 60 when I was born. She was the matriarch. Like, no one messed with her. She was the boss. Like, you didn't want to be on her bad side. You couldn't really fool her. I never really grew up with this mindset that, like, women were inferior to men. Like, it was never even a thing. I actually always thought that, like, I don't want to make grandma mad. I don't want to make my mom mad. I don't want to make, it was just always. But so, like, in my mind, women have always been elevated in our family. And I don't think that that's that strange for most of America. I think most people would defer and do what their great-grandmother said or what their mother said. And so you have this weird thing where women started fighting for equality when they had the whole world. You die, you start a successful business and you die, you are forgotten like immediately. They move on, they find a replacement. You don't do that with your mom. You don't do that with your dad, as long as they're good. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I'm kind of ranting now, but
I don't understand the misogyny in general, where it's coming from or why. I mean, maybe it's just I wasn't around it growing up because I had, similar to you, like a phenomenal mother. Like, or the family was so legit, and she was like, if she said it, it happened. Like, there was no denying her authority.
That was your experience too.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's coming from feminists. Feminists want to. So you get feminists who want to be in masculine roles, and so they attack and attack and attack the feminine role. And now we live in a society where the feminine role is looked down upon. It's insulted. And they argue that they're fighting for women.
The women in my family ruled the roost. And you know what? If my wife were to say, like, you're not doing this, guess what I'm not doing, right? Like, I defer to my wife on everything. She lets me lead most of the time. But at the end of the day, they make the rules. And if they come down hard on something, you're not doing it. It's not happening.
Interesting clip. And I think Terry Schilling says the most interesting things in the beginning and at the end of this clip. First, that his experience of living to please the women in his family is normal in America, and sadly, he is right. Most boys are trained to exclusively please women without considering what is in their own self-interest or benefit. Finally, he admits he is dominated by his wife. While Terry Schilling is a perfectly nice guy, he is the product of our Western Feminist Soy-cieties. A guy that, while well-meaning and of reasonable political leanings, he can't even bring himself to even complete a sentence crediting his father for any influence in his life, and chooses to live for the pleasure of the women in his life. Eventually, he might wake up from his blue pill conditioning if his wife were to ever decide that she had enough and wanted to monkey branch herself to a higher value male. A male who, while being successful, is able to make decisions on his own, without the approval of the women in his life. After all, our feminist society does reward women who want to monkey branch up. I hope for his sake he has a long and happy marriage, but only time will tell, as the odds will always be in her favor. And through death by 1,000 cuts, this is why, still in 2023, everyone in the West is still a feminist. And thank you for watching this video to the end. If you know of a nice guy going through some tough times, do share this video to let him know that he is not alone in his struggles. Leave a like to force the algorithm to show this content to more men. This tiny channel has been terribly shadow banned, and I can only make these videos in my spare time as I am busy running 2 other businesses to make a living. So, also subscribe if you enjoy this message. So what sort of beta programming are you having the hardest time overcoming? Let us know in the comments below. This is Reese. See you next video, guys. Peace.